Hello and welcome along to the Panto Podcast. Apologies for the big break that we've had, but it's going to be well worth it, trust me. Hope you're all having a fantastic 2019, and what better way to start Season 2 than with an interview with the Grumbleweeds. We are talking about Robin Colville and James Brandon, who've been part of the UK comedy scene for, well, since the 60s with Robin. I find out how the two actually got together, how the band started originally, and how they ended up becoming more comedy than music, their take on pantomime, and also their thoughts about comedy. These guys meticulously research comedy and what makes jokes funny. It's an absolutely phenomenal podcast. Thank you so much to the boys. You'll hear me refer to them as the boys, and there's a reason for that as well. So please sit back and enjoy the latest Panto Podcast.
Well, welcoming this week along to the Panto Podcast are the Grumbleweeds. We have James Brandon and Robin Colville. Hello, lads.
Hello. Well, hello. We are podcasting. I never thought I'd be podcasting. I've always wanted to podcast. And now I'm podcasting.
So, boys.
Yes, sir.
How did you both meet?
First of all, thank you for the boys bit. That's nice. 74, somebody be calling me a boy is good. How do we meet? Right, well, I suppose James and I had done quite a lot. James and I met in Blackpool.
In the mid-90s.
Yeah. And he was a stage manager when there was 5 of us on stage. And
yeah, I was a DSM.
Yeah. And I didn't really know him. I said hello, but I didn't really know him. And then I knew him through some friends, and he was doing a magic show, and James Brandon got him. Then I listened to him on the radio when I was working late, and he was doing the late night deep voice. And here we are, radio.
Good evening.
I think he's good at radio, is that kid? I like him. He's good. And that was that. And then one day, James rang me up and he said, we're doing Rita Sue and Bob 2. I said, oh, yeah. Down at the little theatre. Would you like to play The Drunken Father? Well, that was a red rag to a bull to me, because the actual film, Rita Sue and Bob 2, I knew the guy that played The Drunken Father, Willie Ross.
Yeah, they were a double act, weren't they? Lambert
and Ross, who used to work with us. And great act. And then Willie Ross died. And he was a great drunk, and he was sober. He never drank. He was teetotal, as am I. I'm teetotal. And I thought, what a great drunk. I'd love to be able to play a drunk. And he said, you haven't got to be an actor pretending to be drunk. You've got to be a drunk trying to be sober. I said, right. And apparently that came from some famous actor. So that's what I took on board. So James said, do you want to do The Drunken Father? So I said, yes, I'd love to do it. And I'd never sworn on stage, and that was a first for me. Never, ever swearing. And effing and blank, think, oh no, I can't believe I'm saying these words. So we did it, and it was a great success. And then James said, oh, you're great, we should be doing the 39 Steps, which is, as you know, 4 actors playing 100 roles. And James played the lead, and I played, 20, 30 parts, policeman, gay, this, women, all sorts, just going off and coming back on with different voices, different costume, and I loved every minute. And we filmed it, and we said that was really good fun, wasn't it? Mm. And I sent a copy to Phil Dale at Kudos, and he watched it, and he said, really good that, didn't realise you could act. Thank you. Moving on, Graham died. We then did. We had a panto in at Crewe, and I did it with Peter Piper, because we were already billed as the Grumbleweeds. I said, hey, do you want to fill in for Graham? I said, but you're going to have to do our act, not, Peter Piper's act. And so he said, yeah, of course I will. But Graham is brilliant. He's a great comic. But he didn't fit into the act. It was very difficult to work. When I'm used to still working with Graham, my Graham. And I thought, oh, this is so hard. I said, no, you're coming out of character. You can't come out of character. You've got to stay as the clown. And he's used to working solo. So I thought, well, that's the end of that. And I thought, well, that's it. I'm packing it in. I won't do any more. Then Keith Harris got ill. And they said, oh, can you fill in at Hull? I said, not on my own, no. I don't like working solo. I'd done a ship and hated every minute of it. And just for the record, so did the audience. So, yeah, that wasn't me. I'm not a solo act. So Phil Dale, who had watched the 39 Steps video, said, you know what you're doing, you're trying to replace the wrong guy. You'll never replace Graham. I said, no, it's correct, I won't. He said, why don't you replace yourself? You wrote everything, you know how it works. You can act, you can do the clown, you can be the idiot. You need somebody who is good enough to feed you. And that guy that fed you in the 39 Steps, James, was brilliant at it. And James had already got his little panto here at the academy at Barnsley. And I said, any chance that you can put anybody else in to take your place? He said, oh yeah, I can get somebody to take my place. That's not a problem. I said, do you fancy being a grumbleweed and doing Hull? He said, yeah, let's have a bit of fun, wouldn't it? So we did it. Not only was it a bit of fun, we just absolutely get on like a house on fire. In many, many respects, neither of us drink, we both got the same attitude, we both analyse comedy, we tear it to pieces, we just analyse every single word we say, and would it be better if that, and neither of us have got egos, we don't have tempers, we can stand our ground, we're both not idiots, and the great thing is, I don't think it's ever been done in the history of pantomime. I'm going to let you speak in a minute. I will take a breath and let you speak. And I don't think it's ever been done in the history of comedy where the clown has become the feed and the feed has become the clown. I don't think it's ever happened, ever. James has been
my background was in stand-up.
Yeah. So you take over now.
Well, yeah, I'd done stand-up comedy for longer than I can remember. So coming into this as feed was great for me. And you know, often people say, well, how do you feel, you know, going from being the comic to being the feed? And I said, it's exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. You set up the gag. The only thing is that I kick the ball to him when it's time to score the goal. He gets the laughter. Is that a detriment to the comedy? No, it makes it better. Because you're setting the whole thing up. And if you don't set it up right, you can't score the goal. You score the goal together. So you're not losing anything.
Yeah. And if you are setting it up and doing it on your own, this is what I found when I did the solo thing, setting something up and then having to be the fall guy to crash it down to get the laugh at the end. You can't be both characters, so you can't do that sort of comedy, and that's the sort of comedy I really like. Whereas he can do that, he can set it all up, and the idiot comes back with the...
Yeah, I mean, solo is a different discipline
to
double act, and because you'd done so long with Graham in that double act, you were used to working in that way, and that was it. So coming to solo stand-up, it's a totally different game.
It is.
And if you approach it the same way, it won't work. And that's why, you know, you're sort of more comfortable with that. For me, it was kind of the opposite in the sense that I was used to setting it up and delivering the tag. I just set it up, you deliver the tag, and that's kind of it. And I like that. You know, you're using the same skills just in a different way.
Yeah.
Your first pantos then?
First one?
Individually.
Right, my first panto was at the somewhere in Manchester in a library, and we did it with Valentine Dial, the man in black with a deep voice like that. Beautiful.
I remember him. I saw him in the 80s.
Yeah, Valentine Dial
with Ronnie Hilton.
Yeah, and it was a library in the daytime. Then they converted it to theatre. That was our very first panto, that one, and we played Chinese policemen. 5 of us there were. And it was just chaos, just chaos. These 5 young kids running around, Chinese police. It was a nightmare, but funny. And we used to try and make Valentine Dial laugh, and we couldn't do it. We just couldn't make that man corpse. And he corpsed us every night. And he'd have stuff written on his hand, you know, and all sorts of... I'm not going to tell you what, but he would... You are transfixed. And hold his hand up like that, and he'd have stuff written on his hand, and you've got to stand there and not laugh. It was great fun, I enjoyed it, but I did like panto, I loved it. I thought, this is fun, I do like this is great fun, this. And it just went from there, and I think I've probably done 45 pantos. The only thing I've never played was I always wanted to play Hook, when Graham was alive, to play Hook and Smee. And I wanted to play Hook, and I've always wanted to do it like Dustin Hoffman did. I say, Smee, very sinister, but it never came to that. So I don't want to do it anymore now. That's gone. I don't fancy doing that, and I like being the idiot now. I like being the clown now. For years of feeding, now it's great fun. It is great fun. But Panto's slightly different because he's not just the feed now. Because with kind of 2 idiots, I'm just a bit more stupid than him. So we're both stupid. You've got your captain up there, or somebody like that, or the prince, or whoever.
He'll play the feed. And
he'll play the feed, and the two of us. But it's like Smith and Jones. I'm just a bit more stupid than him. He thinks he's cleverer than me.
What about you then, James? Your first panto?
My first panto, I started off in the pit for Dougie Chapman at Rotherham Civic in the very early 90s. So I sort of played in the band, and then I went into producing panto, I think, long before that, because I started out as a magic act. I mean, I've done all the jobs over the years. I started out as a magic act, and they said, you're not funny enough to be the comic, you're not tall enough to play the villain. So that was it for my panto career. So I thought, well, I'll do my own panto. So I got a venue and I put a panto on. Oddly, Tam Ryan started one of the early pantos that I did, who's gone on to the great and wonderful things. But yeah, so I did that, and then I've been producing for the last 20 years since. But I started off in the pit as a muser.
Never knew that. and the magic. How did you integrate that then into?
Well, I did it variously over the years. I mean, we obviously the magic carpets and the Cinderella coaches sort of came into it, but over the years I did a lot for other people. You know, the Mercury at Colchester, the Belgrade at Coventry, and so these kind of people. So we did just designing effects and consultancy stuff, which. Actually, the Aladdin that I do, I still use one now, and I use we fly Aladdin with a piece of kit that I made 20 years ago. It cost less than 20 quid, and we're still using it, and he flies.
So, Effects Twins, watch out, the lads are about.
And that was just 20 quid.
Don't tell them that.
No, he does actually fly. He does actually fly.
I think having the magic background, I've built a lot of magic tricks as well, because I can weld and paint, and so I'm quite good with my hands. I rebuild jukeboxes and stuff like that. So I can make props, and we come up with an idea. And your magic skills as well, of what we can do. I mean, we made a train, didn't we, in the 39 steps?
Yeah, I mean, that was just
the train looked amazing. It wasn't a train, it was the side of a train that was going really fast. And with flashing lights and the carriages moving, and him hanging onto the side with scaffolding, you think, people said, it really looks like a train hurtling along at 60 mile an hour with the sound. It was, how did you do that in that little theatre? And that's magic, illusion. It was all illusion, wasn't it?
Yeah, you could transfer the skills onto the stage. You know, that's not it's a bit of sideways thinking to do that sometimes. But yeah, and it's funny how that sort of comes around. Just that little bit of look, wherever you are in your career, whatever's gone before prepares you for the next bit. You know, and it's like now, we've both done a lot of broadcasting over the years. So when we go to radio stations, we're totally at home, and you think, oh, thank God we did all that radio for all those years.
Yeah. Some people, we got some guys in, they go, yes, no. When was your first panto? 1963. And just silences, and they don't know how to get anything out of people. Whereas I've done 140 radio shows for BBC, Radio 2, we're on there, we got the Sony Award. So I'm kind of used to doing radio, and we kind of go into a studio, and we do, what do you call him, is it Sheffield, Bernie Clifton.
Oh, Bernie's, yeah.
He said, do you want to come and do a live-ish? I said, yeah, all right. And they basically just let us loose, and that's it, that's an hour programme done. It's just madness, because we've no fear of it. We've no fear of television cameras either. I've done a lot of television as well, where some people kind of freeze and go to pieces under it and start talking ridiculous, or change the voice. Graham used to change his voice to my ex-partner, but he would start putting H's on and things where there isn't any, isn't any, what? Yeah, he would start changing his accent and everything, not on purpose, but it was just, I'm on radio.
How did it actually begin then with you and the Grumbleweeds?
What, the actual beginning?
The actual beginning.
Way back in 1962. Very, very simple story. Very quick. I used to fix jukeboxes. I was 17, driving around. I had hair bleached white. I had winkle pickers on, and I had a little Ford Anglia. And I was a nutter, and I used to go around fixing jukeboxes. And I went to a Delmonico coffee bar. It was in Meanwood, Leeds. to fix the jukebox. It was a Rockola 430, if there's any plebs out there who know what jukeboxes are, but anyway, wall mount. And I went in to fix the jukebox, and because there was no sound, no music playing, this kid was playing his guitar, and everybody was kind of singing along, and coffee bar, and that was it, back in 1962. So I fixed the jukebox, 10 minutes, put some records on for them, packing my stuff up, walking out, and this kid's putting the guitar away. And I'd just bought a kit of drums the week before. I bought it with sixpences, by the way, obviously. Lots of sixpences in jukeboxes. So I bought this kit of drums, which I couldn't play, incidentally, and or never could. Still can't to this day. And I went up to this kid and I said, "Hey kid, do you want to join a group?" And he said, "Who's in it?" I said, "Up to now, you." And he said, "Oh, right, fair enough." He says, "What about my mate?" I said, "What does your mate play?" He says, "No, but I'll teach him bass. It's only 4 strings. You hit him one at a time. It's dead easy. You don't have to learn a chord." And that was great. And the kid was Morris. And he said, "Right, what calling group?" I said, "Well, I don't know, we'll call it Robin and the Rockets, or Robin and the Fireflies," or my sister said Grumbleweeds. She said, "Oh, I like that sound." And that was beginning. And then we needed somebody with a lead guitar, and we didn't know anybody. Oh, there's a kid down the road, and he's got a lead guitar, and his brother can sing, but he's got a microphone. Has he? He's got a microphone. Right. Knocked at his door. "Kid, do you want to join this group?" "Well, I've just left the group." "Yeah, well, we're calling it Robin and the Fire." We were going to call it Grumbleweeds. "Oh, I like the name of that." "Yeah, if you keep that name, I'll join." I said, "But what about your kid? Will he bring his mic along?" "Albert, yeah. Well, he's got a mic. In fact, I think he's got 2. He's got 2 mics, lad. Can you sing? Are you any good? What sort of songs do you do? You've got a mic. That was it. That was the only recommendation you needed. And that was it. That was the beginning of the Grumbleweeds. And then we just did clubs, went to did Germany. We were in the Herberstrasse and the Reeperbahn in Germany. Rolling Stones were around the corner, and we took over from the Beatles. They finished one week, and we went into the top 10 club. Graham actually had John Lennon's bed, believe it or not. And they moved out, we moved in, and did 4 weeks there. We got ripped off for all the money by the agent, manager, woman. Hitchhiked home, and then the van broke down. We had to leave it there full of equipment on the side of the Autobahn and get out because our visas had run out. Got the AA to get the van back. In the meantime, we'd borrowed a load of equipment off all the other groups, which didn't work. And you'd hit a drum and it'd roll off and roll into the audience. You know, you'd hit the string and it'd snap. And they would do just rubbish gear, but people lent us also enough to work. And we couldn't do the rock and roll clubs, so we did the working men's clubs because they didn't need the volume. "Hey, keep it down, lad, you'll get another booking." You know, all that, ding ding,
Yeah.
Pies have come, all that. We still take the mickey out of them now, bless them, but that's where we learnt our craft. And so then the equipment came back, and all of a sudden we thought, well, we kind of like doing these clubs because people are coming to see us, because all this stuff that's going wrong originally was going wrong. We didn't plan it to go wrong. It went wrong. Stuff went wrong. It was going out of tune. We were singing out of tune. And oh, they're hilarious. Watch him. Watch that drummer. He can't play. They all fall on the floor. They all collapse. It's hilarious. And that's what happened. So we got the good gear back, and we had to start making it go wrong. And that's where the comedy came in. So that's where we were doing all this. When they're putting new strings on, because they kept snapping in the middle of the set, Graham and I would start doing step tones. So, "Oh God, here we go again, Harold!" And we'd do all this rubbish. And we would, because we're both impressionists. I've been since school, and that's how the impressionists came in. So we were kind of the first comedy show group, and we were packing places. And then a guy came along and said, "Do you want to do a radio show?" I said, "Yeah, all right." "Who listens to radio?" Wrongly. And that was Mike Craig. We did this thing, pilot, and it went out, Radio 2. It was called the Grumbleweeds Radio Show, and it just went toxic. It was mental. I think we had 11 million listeners on Radio 2 on a Sunday afternoon. It was just like everybody stopped at 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon to listen to this weird radio. And if you analysed it, it was mental. You had like 20 people all living in one house. Weird characters, one that can't be mentioned, the man, you know, that's why they're never replaced. They won't play any of them. I don't know who it was. Anyway, we had that guy in it, and we had Uncle Rubbish and Uncle Nasty, and we had all these. Ernest and Jeffrey.
Yeah,
I mean,
Frida
these-
Natakan.
Frida Natakan. But these are all taken from real people. Frida Natakan. Oh, don't you start! I've got 4,000 sandwiches to make before lunchtime.
Rat face, man.
Rat face. Yeah, there was. That's what I call it. That's what I call a sandwich. That is, Frida. That's a right good sandwiches. That. Hello, kiddies. It's Uncle Rubbish here, and he was some old weird guy who used to keep worms in a box, and then you got a guy with a gas mask on. I've got my gas mask on today. What on his earth is? And the fella who's lying all the time, and the fella who can't speak because he's got a disease. All these weird characters, they were kind of nicked from all round the Horn and different places. All these weird characters, and Mike Craig kind of put them all together, and there they were in this house, having these weird journeys, and it was just total madness. It was total madness, but it was great fun. So we did that for like 14 years, and Johnny Amp said, "I think we could do that on TV." I said, "What, all those characters?" He said, "Well, similar." And we did try Wolfgas Mascripture and other people, and we actually had the real on as well. But and the people that we'd done, like Huey Green, we'd been on Opportunity Knocks many years ago and came last and beaten by an army display team, and a woman doing farmyard noises. It's quite true. I'm not making this up. Get the footage out. It is morning. Here is Rover. Roof. Hello, Rover. Oh, there's Daisy the cow. Moo. It didn't even sound like a cow. Oh, here comes Hercules the chicken. Quack, 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 quack. It was. She beat us. Right? This kid beat us, and the kid playing a banjo beat us. The winners were Army Display Team, so the voting public thought that the Army Display Team stood more chance in show business than we did. That's where we came from. That's our background. So we had Huey.
How right they were.
Yeah. So we had Huey Green on our show, which was great, and all the people we'd grown up with were on our show. The unmentionable person, he was on our show, and Blue Mink and big names were Alvin, because we used to do an Alvin Stardust lookalike. You know, we used to do it in the act, Alvin Stardust. So I said, won't it be funny if we have an Alvin Stardust contest? So we're all dressed as Alvin Stardust. And Alvin Stardust comes on. He's the real man. He comes last. Albert won it because he'd got no teeth in. Too cool, we just want you. But Alvin Stardust goes out all depressed because he didn't win the contest. Just madness. Great fun though. Great fun. And that ran for 5-6 years in Granada. Then Granada it all changed and new people came in, clean sweep, and it was time to move on, and they moved on and left us. And then we thought, well, it's time to actually look at our act now, because we spent that long in the studios doing TV and radio. It was time to look at the act, because people were saying, "Oh, they're old hat." And you stand back and look at it. It's like you're the last to know when somebody says, "Oh, you've got BO." You think you're the last to find out. And we didn't realise it. And you look at your act, you think, yeah, we're still doing Demis Russo and Elvis. These people are dead and have been for some considerable time. You're doing Peters and Lee, you're doing Huey Green. They're all dead. There's new people to do impersonations of, and yeah, we need to change this act, big style. And that's when we decided to call it a day as the 5, went to 3, me, Morris and Graham, and we got a band, got rid of the instruments, thankfully, because I couldn't play the drums anyway. I was rubbish on them. Went 3-handed, we did 10 years 3-handed, then Morris retired, and it was just Graham and myself, just a double act. And that, up to that point, I think that was all the training. That's the most fun I've had, because I was now being the feed. Instead of doing all the impressions, I can do like 150 impressions. I still learn them today. I still do modern ones, but we don't do them in the act, because I can't. It's because I'm...
We did try.
It doesn't
when we
work,
first
does it?
started, yeah, because we were learning as well. And actually that worked both ways, because when Robin had to go and do a change, if we were doing one of sort of dress-up routines, he would have to go off and get changed, and I would say, "Oh, I'll just fill out, do 5 minutes there." So I when we first started, using material that I'd used for years and years and years, that was sort of solid gold, reliable material. I knew it worked, and it didn't work. It was all right, but it just wasn't scoring the goals that had scored before. And of course, it was because I wasn't the funny guy. When you set up and you educate your audience into here he is, he's the funny guy, they'll laugh at that joke or whatever. Robin would go off and get changed. And of course, now we'd told them that I wasn't the funny guy. He was the funny guy. So I was using material that I'd relied on, I knew worked, and it didn't work. And Robin was using impressions that he'd used when he was playing the straight man, and they didn't work because he's the funny guy, he's not the clever guy, and the impressions now became too clever. So it kind of looked a little bit dishonest. So we realised very quickly on that had to change.
Yeah.
So the impressions went. And,
they went. I mean, I can't just be this idiot. And you know, why do people fall backward? You know, on the boat and because they fell forward to still be in the boat because he's an idiot. Then come back on and go. So there's this guy. He's amazing. You know. So my brother. What's that? Where's this clever impression coming from?
It didn't look honest. It looked dishonest, and that's what. And they gave him too much to think about, and so his impressions weren't playing for laughs. It's softened up a little since, and I think that's down to how we've learned to handle it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'm still doing gags in the show solo, and that works now. But I've altered the character slightly to fit that. And you do impressions, but we altered the way in which you do the impressions. You do them with the underpants on your head now.
Yeah, so I pull the underpants out, I pull them over my head and look it up, and so they're all laughing at that, and so then I can, it's not me, it's an idiot with underpants, and I'm looking through the fly hole, and, are you local? We only serve local people. So I can get away with this, and Sergeant, it's 2 for 1 cinema ticket to comparethemarket.com. So it's this idiot looking through the underpants. So it's not just standing there, I'm going to do a clever impression now. So we found a way to do it. It's about educating the crowd, and so everything we do, we analyse. And with James now, I think the 50 years that I've done, 55 years, people say, oh, would you like to go back and do... No, that was all a training ground. I've learned a lot and learnt a lot. And James has learnt a lot in his things. And now it's putting these two together. And I think what we've got now is just wondrous. I am just so thrilled with what we have.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun with it. I mean,
we do have a lot.
That's the key. There's no tension in that. There's no friction in that. So we just try it, and I think that's the bit that sort of surprises people more than anything. That's the bit that people sort of remark upon, and they go, "I can't believe you that you do that." And we do. We sort of go, "I've got an idea," and I'll say it to them, and then we can just go on and do it. We just do it, and it just works, and that's not an idle boast. You know, we just sort of make that work, and that's I don't think that people.
But even if it doesn't work, we've no fear.
No, and it's. I was going to say, I'm trying to work a way of explaining that. It's not that it doesn't work, because it's to do with having the confidence to make that work. And when we did the Pink Panther thing, which is a string of rubbish jokes, really.
I don't know if you've seen us do it, but we do like 7 or 8 really the Christmas cracker jokes. But
deliberately bad jokes.
Deliberately bad. They're not clever jokes. They're just rubbish jokes.
So we were doing it one day, and we said, we wonder how long we can do nothing and still get laughs. That was just a conversation. I wonder
just
how
before
long,
we went on stage.
How long do you think we can do nothing and get laughs? Let's try it. So we walked on the stage
and just walked up and down.
And I can't remember, it was about 1:40 or something.
1 minute 40 seconds.
And
Matt Lancaster, the comic that was on was in our laughter show. He said, "Do you know how long you just walked up and down stage? We timed you." I said, "No, how long did we do?" He said, 1 minute 40 seconds. You didn't say a word, and they were laughing, and then the laugh would die. It got to a point where I said to James, I said, "Well, right, do it. When it gets to the point of uncomfortable, just go past it if you can, and then speak." And he said, "Right." So I thought, now it's getting uncomfortable. He's going to start talking now, and he didn't. And then they started laughing again. I thought, this is ridiculous. We aren't doing anything, and they're laughing.
Well, it sort of came in waves.
In
goes
waves.
Up and then down, and then eventually they're just killing themselves, and it was just.
And then when we actually did speak, whoa, massive! It was just awesome.
It's weird.
Now that's just having the bottle to do it, but we just play at it, and we just see if it can be done. I wouldn't have been able to do that 25 years ago. I wouldn't have dared do that 25 years ago. It's just having confidence, skills, and
and you know, to put that in context, that's not about just trying stuff that doesn't work. We would have wrapped it up rather quickly if it hadn't. It was that's just breaking new ground. And can you make comedy in silence? And the answer is yes, we can. But we wouldn't have known that if we didn't
try it.
Try it.
Yeah, the panto we've just done, we did a gag with Darren, which was a lovely gag, and I think lots of people are using it now, but hey, whatever, gags are gags. And it was the parrot we had, and we said, oh, it doesn't look like my parrot. Yeah, it's had its hair done. We did it with that new Prime Minister shampoo. And he said to me, Prime Minister shampoo? And then James whispered into my ear, no, that's Tresemme. Oh, right. Now, when we first did it, Captain Up Darren carried on. And so we said to him, we came off and said, look, when we do that gag, just look at me. Yeah, for how long? I said, just look at me. Just keep looking at me and staring at me. And eventually the audience, the laugh will build and they'll applaud. And so he just stared at the pair of us, and he whispered to me, and he just stared at me, and the bird's looking, I've got a big parrot on my arm, that's looking at him as well, and we're just staring at him. And it just built and built and built applause. And that's when he came off and he said, how do you know that? How did you know they were going to do that? I said,
just some gags,
it's giving them space. Laughter can only exist in space.
Yeah, it's just a sort of crackle like dry grass sometimes.
Yeah, like burning. Tresemme.
Because it's a Christmas cracker
and
joke.
it builds to this applause. That's just, then it's just joyous then. When you can work it like that, then it's real fun as opposed to, oh, I've got another panto to do, let's just go through it. I hate to see people walking through a panto. I mean, I've been to so many of them, and you think, oh, why do you do that? You can make it so magical. And for children, it's their first time at a theatre, usually. And they'll remember that all their lives. I remember the first panto I ever went to, and I can remember the green witch coming out of the side and going, oh, it's a big long pointy nose, and she was always lit in green, and she always came from the right hand side. And I remember that, and I was only about 8. So these kids remember this, so if somebody's just walking through it, yeah, I want people come up to me and say, my first panto I was about 8, I'm 40 now, I've got 3 kids, and I can always remember you going across the stage naked on roller skates. I said, they still do it. The only difference is the tag at the end that says, what was he wearing? I don't know, but it needed ironing. Then it was a funny joke. Now it's real. My skin doesn't fit anymore.
Where did that come from then?
That was a dare. That was a dare. I had some roller skates backstage and I was messing about. And I think somebody was singing, and I just put a cardboard box around me and just went across the middle of a song, brought the house down. I thought, oh, right. And then they said, that's good, but he daredn't go. I did it, put it in the show then. They said, that's really funny. So that went in the show. And then somebody said, but he daren't go back without the box. Really? Back without the box? Of course, John Conway, who used to be at Q with us, he said, there's the second biggest laugh you will ever hear in a theatre is when Robin goes across the stage with a cardboard box around him on roller skates. The biggest laugh you'll ever hear is when he comes back without the box. He says that when he teaches people that things like that. People have nicked it, they do it, but do they do it the same way? Don't know. It's all about, if you move, it kills it. If I actually skate, it kills it dead. You've got to be motionless. Just stand. So I've got to run and get a lot of speed up and just be absolutely motionless and just stare stupid, doing 30 miles an hour, not move. And then put the brakes on and look where I'm going when I get to the side. Sometimes. But if you skate, then it's not funny. But a lot of people nick it and they skate and they go, it doesn't work. No, because you're doing it wrong.
So what about you then, James? How did you actually get started in the business?
I'd always been in the business. I think I sort of came. I don't remember a time when I wasn't in the business or going to be in the business. I remember sort of being, at school and saying, "You'll never make a decent physicist," and I said, "I don't care. I'm going to be a magician." And I was for a long time. And magic went sort of in and out of fashion, as it still does to this day. It's coming back in now with the Darren Browns and all that Dynamo and that sort of stuff. But it did go out of fashion. And I'd been looking for something else. One of the things that we do now is we teach comedy. We lecture comedy to sometimes dramatic groups and that sort of stuff. But we do a lot of magic clubs, magic circles, teaching magic to comedy to magicians and stuff.
We're doing one this weekend, aren't we?
We are, yeah.
That's amateurs.
Yeah, amateur group or something like that. But they've booked us to go and talk comedy. And And one of the things that we sort of talk about is that comedy is the holy grail of show business. No matter where you are, if you're a singer, you want to tell gags. If you're a magician, you want to get laughs. And it's about that process, that journey into comedy, because very few people have ever sort of launched straight into comedy. I mean, that's probably less true now because of the comedy clubs and things. But most people, historically speaking, came into comedy from somewhere else. They were a singer who told gags. They were an impressionist who started playing for laughs. So, there was always a hiding place, and I think that's probably what you need. And I didn't really transition into comedy from that. Basically, the magic thing went out of fashion, which it does. I'd started doing some old-time musical stuff, so I'd gotten involved in we had to sing and all that. And so I'd gone out doing some singing gigs and stuff like that, and added bits of comedy to it, and then eventually the comedy got longer and the songs got shorter, and then eventually I ditched all the songs altogether and I did some novelty stuff, visual stuff, based on what I'd done, with the magic stuff years before. And eventually it all went and it was just me and a microphone, and that's the way I sort of...
You were very prop act when I first...
Yeah, when I first started, yeah. And
Guns and
well, I think that's it. That's the difference between the sort of comedy vocal and being a comic. I think when you become a stand-up comic, I think you can say you're a stand-up comic at the point at which it's you on a microphone and that's it. Before that, I'd done sort of visual comedy and comedy vocal, singing songs or comic songs. And I think just to go out and out comedy, you've got to sort of lose all of that. And that's when you start to fly. That's when you start to learn about pauses and timing and space. And you lose the fear. Bear in mind, I'd come through the corners of pubs and working men's clubs and, tough nights, playing. I mean, I spent about 10 years playing the sort of latter end of the Sunday nights to 20 people in a working men's club concert room. You learn how to fly. You learn how to survive. You learn how to deal with things. And that sort of... Then it's like I said, your career thus far prepares you for the next stage, and so that's kind of what I brought to the table with the Weeds, and it's that experience that allows us to do that now, to try to play that silence and to be fearless in what we do, which we certainly are.
Well, that's where you learn all your... We all learnt to do hecklers. I mean, when I was feeding, I had to do all the heckling thing, heckler stoppers, and you did the same. So James has actually written a book because he knows just thousands and thousands of any situation heckler stoppers. I don't have to do that anymore because I'm not the feed. So if somebody interrupts us, I just shut up. It's his job. Whereas when I was the feed, that was my job. But now, and so he's got, I think it's on Amazon or something. You've got a book. What's it called? Armed and Dangerous. Yeah. And it's got every heckler stopper for any situation in there. So comics buy that and go, oh, that's a good one. I remember that one. Oh,
yeah.
I'll buy it.
I didn't intend to write a book. What I did is I wrote down. There was something on the internet about 50 great heckler stoppers, and that sort of got me thinking. I thought, well, it's not an awful lot of put down lines. So I thought, well, I wonder how many.
There are.
You can see a pattern emerging here. I wonder how. So I started writing down a list of heckler stoppers, and I'd written about 900 heckler stoppers down, which I didn't even know I knew. It was just, oh yeah, there's that line about, and that reminded me of that and that. So they were all just smart comebacks for things, and I'd written them down. And then I thought, yeah, but you can't really put that out there and say here are 900 put down lines, because if somebody, the thing with doing hecklers and put downs is that it looks like you're sort of wading in armed to the teeth, and if somebody does that, they're going to end up getting nailed to the wall. So I then started putting in little codices. Well, if you do that, say, but you can't say that unless you. And eventually I'd written that many explanations that I'd written a book and with the whole technique in it, and everything was written down, and it took me 2 weeks to write a book, which I never intended to write, and it's still out there now. It's still selling now. I do a lecture on it now. It's kind of a bit weird, because we've done the Grumbleweeds comedy lecture, which is 2.5 hours of us talking about structure of gags and how to play for gags and what to do to make something funny. And then after that, they'd sort of come back and said, that book you mentioned, can you come and, is there a lecture available for that? So that starts in May, where we started out the Grumbleweeds comedy lecture, because Big Mouth here talked us into that one. I just phoned Robin and I said, we're doing a lecture on comedy. What we're going to talk about? I said, the same thing we talk about every day. Oh, right, okay. And it sort of came for that, so that's sort of...
We don't plan anything. There's nothing written down. We don't cover any particular areas at all. And we're doing one just for pantomime people or just for...
Yeah, there's one on
and so we'll talk about pantomime, everything about pantomime, because we've both done 50 years of them, so it's easy.
Yeah, pantomime comedy specifically.
That's what I mean, yeah, pantomime comedy. But we understand the rest of it anyway. But, yeah, I never realised that we could actually talk that long about it. I thought, what are we going to talk about? Well, you do a gag and it's funny. End of. That's it. But we don't. We talk all the time. What if we did that? Why? Well, the audience are thinking that, and if they think, yeah, so if we set that one up there, and this is how we analyse and work out.
Bear in mind, we'd come through that phase of having to analyse why what we'd done individually for so many years didn't work when we came together, and because we went, yeah, we're giving them something else to think about. The stupid guy is all of a sudden a clever guy, and now their mind goes up. So we being able to sort of analyse what's so funny about that, quote unquote, gave us the ability to sort of turn that into a lecture and to say, okay, here's how you make this funny, or let me show you an example of how you can turn a joke around or replace how you tell the joke to make it funnier.
And we do two gags. There's two specific gags that we do that's both set up right at the beginning of the show and at the end of the show, and that show could be an hour and a half, 2 hours later before they are tagged. And we did one of them in pantomime with Mark Larrison, and he said, you know this gag you're going to do at the end? Yeah. With a full stage, yeah, everybody's on stage, the full cast is on stage, and you're going to come on and just tag that gag that you set up 2 hours previous. Yes. Don't you think you ought to remind the audience, like at the end of the first half and in the second half, put another reminder in? No. You've got a full stage there, you're going to walk on, and it's like, is it going to work? Yes. You sure? Yes. Right. Okay. And Matt Slack came up, and other people said, you know what you're doing there? You're tagging a gag that you set up 2 hours. They're just not going to remember
it. Yeah, but
it.
in fairness to Matt, on opening night, he did come up and he said, hey,
you
were right.
You were right. Woof! Big laugh, and they said, there you go, boys. Yeah. We never thought that would work. Well, I know, but we've done it, and we
love working with Matt.
We went
to see him in Birmingham this year, and he was great again. He's a great man.
Very funny man. Very funny man. Very funny man. Matt Slack, very funny man.
That takes me to my next question, actually.
Yeah.
What makes you laugh?
We make each other laugh.
We do make each other laugh.
We make each other laugh.
Yeah.
That's how it works. We develop ideas, and if we get a gag that... Actually, I was going to say, if we get a gag that works, we know it works. We did a gag. We were in Birmingham. We were in the apartment, and I said to Robin, "What do you think to this for a gag?" Right. You turn to, because we always like to exit on a gag. We don't just kind of leave it and then walk across the stage. You get
we're
right
always
to the edge,
finished.
boom,
right at the side of the stage. Laugh and we're off.
So the gag that we were doing was.
It sounds like this. I wish I'd listened to what my dad said.
Why? What did he say?
I don't know. I never listened.
That was the gag. It's stand-up stuff. And I said, why don't we twist the gag around so that you say...
I say, this reminds me of what my granddad said just before he kicked the bucket.
Why? What did he say?
He said, Robin, how far do you think I can kick this bucket?
So we restructured it, and I said, I think that's, what do you think? And he said, oh, that's
really funny.
So we laughed and because it's a silly gag. It's not going to fetch the place down. So I said, that's really funny. So we laughed at this gag. So I said, right, okay, let's get it laughed down then. And
so we started doing it in the flat.
And we were making each other laugh.
We couldn't do it without laughing.
It was just
and the more I got to the tag and we go to how far do they go get this bucket? We were in hysterics, and I mean hysterics. Now, this is what makes us laugh. We make each other laugh. We were working in Spain 5 weeks ago, and we'd driven to the airport, and we were sitting in the back of the car, and there's a guy driving and a lady in the front. They'd looked after us. And James, we were doing gags in the car going to the airport. James said, my favourite poem is this. there was a man called Wyatt whose voice was incredibly quiet. And then one day, it faded away. Right, that's the gag. So, the guy in the front laughed.
Hang on, for the listener's benefit, the last line is just mouthed, right? So you just mouth the last line.
No sound.
Right.
So, the woman in the front says, no, I didn't hear the last line, sorry. Now I'm on the floor. Okay, now I genuinely... So
I played it straight. I said, oh, I'm sorry, right. The gag is, there was a young fellow called Wyatt, whose voice was exceedingly quiet, till finally one day it just faded away.
And she's, no, I still can't hear you. You're whispering the last line. And so I am now crying, and he's got tears running down the driver's got tears running down his face. She says, I can't hear you. I said, look, listen to the words of the poem, and it'll make sense. She says, I would if I could bloody hear him. That's what makes us laugh. Silly stuff. And we come up with ideas. That's what makes us laugh.
Yeah, we've done it in the wrong places sometimes. We were guests of honour at a dinner.
Oh, it's awful.
Which, well, we'll not say where or who, but we were just... I cracked a gag to him. And we were just in bits on the floor. As guests of honour, we were just rolling around on the floor.
We had to go under the table. And it was awful. I just couldn't stop laughing.
And I did it in the restaurant with the Thriller dance one time, which I did the Thriller dance in a restaurant for a laugh, and we were just
the waiter looked like he was come out of Michael Jackson's Thriller. His face with sunken eyes and everything.
So I was doing the Thriller dance anyway.
And I was just, people said, what's up with him? I was just crying, laughing like I've never laughed. That's what makes us laugh. I've never laughed at anything. I can go watch a comedian and go, oh, he's doing that well. Yeah, he timed that well. Oh, that's lovely. That's great. It's very seldom we laugh out loud, but to each other, we can be in hysterics. We're on a plane. People say, what's up with them two? We're just crying over stupid stuff. So he makes me laugh and I make him laugh. That's just the most perfect person to spend your life with, isn't it?
When's the engagement?
There won't be one of them.
There won't. I will have none of those. Oh, don't you get married? No.
What about when you were kids? Who made you laugh then?
Max Wall, Harry Worth, just because he could put his arms up and at the side of a mirror. My name's Harry Worth. And all these sort of things. I mean, that's early impressions. Hello, Charlie. Freddie Starr nicked that off me and didn't do it very well. He couldn't do the walk properly. Where's the stool for me bottom? I thought he was hysterically funny, Max Wall. The Marx Brothers, I used to love the Marx Brothers. Just thought they were just wonderful. Laurel and Hardy, just as a kid, Morecambe and Wise, their timing, and I still look at Morecambe and Wise now and think their timing is amazing. Their timing is just brilliant. It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so was the two Ronnies. Their timing was wonderful, just wonderful. And you watch the skill that's in there, not just the gag you wear. Oh, that's a funny routine. The skill is brilliant. You watch Four Candles and watch how they time it. Why it's so funny. It isn't the gags.
No, it isn't. One of the things that we do, coming back to the lecture thing, is that I think timing is one of those things that's oft talked about and not really understood. And it's they use the word immaculate. Timing is always immaculate. And the golfers are always keen and Frost is always widespread. Timing is always immaculate. But nobody really knows what that means. And one of the things that we try to do with the lecture is to lift the lid on what timing is, how it exists, and how you can change it. Because if you don't know what it is, how can you do anything about it? So once you understand below the surface what's going on with the two Ronnies and all that classic stuff, and why it's classic stuff, and that exists also in things like a lot of the Jimmy Perry, David Croft stuff, like
Fawlty Towers.
I was thinking more, but certainly Fawlty Towers, but Ain't Half Hot Mum, Heidi High, those kinds of things.
Look at the time. Show them shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, what a sad loss. I mean, Winston Davis.
Brilliant.
But if you look at some of those scenes and the way that that sort of master-servant relationship works. The same kind of thing that we do, that school teacher, naughty schoolboy thing.
That's
you
what
know,
it is.
it's that, and it's the timing, and it's lifting the lid. And once you can see what's going on and how that works, the other key component, of course, is casting. If you've got a dream cast like you got in Ain't Half Hot No More, particularly Heidi High, where you've got that lovely eclectic mix of what were essentially failures. They were all failures, weren't they? They were all dropouts and losers, and that's where the comedy came from in that. They would never have succeeded, and it would have been funny if they did. But yeah, so it's being able to sort of analyse and understand all that, the layers of comedy that go into it. It's a wonderful thing. And it doesn't matter where that comes from. That can be a Lee Evans, you know, as manic as that is, or it could be a Michael McIntyre. If it works, as we always say, there's no such thing as who's better and best. There's no such thing as that in comedy. Every comedian finds his audience. Every comic finds its level. And it's this age-old argument about, is the new school stuff better than the old school stuff? No, there's no better. You know, is Morecambe and Wise better than a modern comic? I don't think it is better. Each comic finds his audience, and he will make them laugh. And so, what entertains one is unlikely to entertain the other. So that's that wonderful sort of rainbow of comedy that covers everything. There's no such thing as better and best. It's just
you just
who
find your
works
own
for-
audience.
yeah,
Chubby
who
Brown's audience aren't our audience, and vice versa. And yet Chubby Brown was a great friend of ours. Says we're the funniest thing on the planet. And he said to me every time he sees him, he says, "I wish I could have been a Grumbleweed." He said, "How you get those laughs without swearing is beyond me."
He's playing here on Saturday, did you know?
He is, isn't
And
he?
Sunday.
Yeah, he's here Saturday and Sunday. Lovely, lovely, lovely man. Lovely man. Known him for a long, 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 long time. And he got into his act through a mistake. He was booked for an adult thing, and he said, "I don't do adult." And he had to swear and do all this sort of stuff to get into it. If it was a marketplace, he's found his niche, he does it.
Well, that's a very difficult thing to do. I mean, I sort of came through that phase of working in clubs and all that, and I always worked it clean, because I worked out for me that once I'd stepped over the line, I was playing a tough club one time, I'll do it quickly, and I made the mistake of trying to blue up the act, which meant doing exactly the same act,
But
but
swearing.
dropping a load of expletives in. And then I realised about halfway in that most of my act was about going to be nearly rude and then not being rude.
Correct.
And once I'd gone there, there was no way back. So I kind of painted myself into a corner. There was no way out.
Correct.
I just had to say it, and then it wasn't funny because I'd said it, because I'd already said it 5 minutes before. So the fact that I'd not said it now wasn't funny anymore. So I kind of kept out that. You tried it with Benidorm, didn't you? You know, trying to blow up the act, and it just doesn't work. It's, you know, we still, you know, work clean, and even with adult audiences, just work clean. But you know, comics find their audience, and do you know what? It does work the other way around. When you work clean, we did Benidorm Palace. They put us on at 1:45, which for a comedy act like us is very, very difficult with a drunk audience.
Yeah.
And we took the lid off it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
With a
standing
clean
ovation,
act.
and we'd followed a very, very blue drag act who swore for every swear word there is from the minute they walked on. So I think, oh, we're not going to follow this.
Yeah.
And yet, because we educated the audience that we're not going to swear, and this is an idiot, and then we were taking the roof off with stuff like
Silly, the usual stuff we do, the silly sort
the
of...
crows
yeah.
were crowing, the pigs were pigging, the ducks were ducking, the cocks were having a lion that morning. That isn't blue, even if I'd have said it, it's not blue. This F's and blinded it before me, but that just took the roof off. So it's to educate them. You don't need to be blue. You really don't need to be. Funny, stupid is really funny, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of how it works. It's the innocence and comparing different kinds of comedy, which we weren't, but we'll go on to that. The major difference between the new school comics and the old school comics is their approach. The old school comics were all of lower intelligence. They didn't quite understand it, and I'll take that from the childish innocence of Chaplin, or of Stan Laurel, where really the concept was the child in the adult world, we saw the child trying to make sense of the adult world. You know, if you've seen that wonderful thing where he...
Trying to get a plank through the doorway.
Yeah.
Not work. No, that's the child in an adult world.
Yeah, and, you know, if you want to go to ultra-modern comedy, that's what we laugh at now on Facebook and YouTube videos. Dogs trying to get a stick through a door. That's exactly the same concept. It's just that we've changed the vehicle. And then, so the comic was always of lower intelligence. He didn't quite understand what was going on. He was always a bit thick or a misunderstanding. Whereas most of that sort of new wave comedy, the comic knows more than you. He's noticed something that you haven't. So he's going to explain a different way of thinking about something, which is a higher intelligence. He's kind of been applying his intelligence to the adult world and saying how stupid that is. Do you see what I mean? It's a complete reversal of the same thing. So that's the difference. But they're both funny. So there's nothing, you know, neither is better.
No.
It's just about, you know, understanding that. And it doesn't matter whether it's blue or it's clean. It will find its own audience. You know, and some of it cross-pollinates. You can laugh at a clean act and you can laugh at a blue act. There's no such thing as better and best in comedy.
Correct.
For kids, do you still enjoy performing? You maximise?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's big laughs, and there's that big laugh that you get from kids.
Kids don't take any prisoners.
No, they don't. If it's
They
not
don't
funny,
give
it's
up.
not funny.
They don't. Oh, we'll applaud it anyway. You know. Oh, they've worked hard. We'll give them I'll give them a polite laugh. No, they just stare at you. Staring contest, and they win. That's it.
Have you ever had that?
Yeah, that's when you learn. That's when you learn and think, right, they don't get this. It's not making them laugh. But
Yeah, subtlety in comedy is not something that kids get. But kids get status comedy. Kids like status comedy. They like the schoolroom scenes or the masterminds or the teacher. Well, because they've got experience of that. That is their world. That sort of master-servant relationship, the teacher teaching the thing. So the schoolroom scene is always going to go a bag full with the kids because they identify with that. And in the same way that, you know, what I'll do with Robin is I'll play the sort of parent role when he's messing about and doing the dancing. You know, he's doing crazy sort of eccentric dancing and he pulls his underpants out of his trousers and puts them over his head and just silly childish stuff. The kids get that, and of course we stop the music all of a sudden and I'm very stern, I'm in his face and he's playing up to me and doing the silly voices.
It's a child.
It's just the kids, so the kids get that. The reward, of course, for that is the child's laughter, those big gales of laughter. They're equally rewarding, and I think there's a lovely innocence about that sort of playfulness of the release for them of all this. You know, they spend their childhood being told off, and all of a sudden, you know, he becomes the sort of comedy hero. He wins. He gets one over on
Again, that's why they like the Teletubbies that we do. Lots of people try to copy it, but all right, just putting the costume on doesn't do it. It isn't the costume. It's the idiot it's the child in the adult world playing. It's like doing the Santa Claus thing and falling down the stairs. It's the adult playing at a child's game because the Teletubbies are theirs. It's their era. But I'm an adult now. But I'm being in their world. That's why they like us to do the Teletubbies and be just ridiculous, walk ridiculously and talk ridiculously. They just, to hear that wails of laughter from children it's probably the best sound in the world is a child laughter. A child screaming is probably the worst sound in the world, but
Yeah,
that's just another story.
That kills the gags.
How much input do you have into the scripts?
With what we do,
Yeah.
100%.
Panto scripts. Yeah. Oh, right, so what we get is a panto, and it depends on how it goes. With, I mean, the one we just done with Darren was much more plot intensive than we've done in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
We was, you know, so we were in that more, so we integrated the comedy into that. But by and large, you know, we'll have a meeting with Jonathan and go down and sit in the office and say, you know, what spaces have you got, what would fit there, and then we'll just sit and talk it out. Because it's always better to sit down, you know, in the office at Kudos and do that long before you get to the rehearsal room and go, oh, I know what would be funny here. You've got to have a respect for the creatives that do that, and you know, yeah, we can walk in and do it in 5 minutes, but there's then the sound guy's got to do this, and the lighting guys, you know, if they give a chance to plan that. So we try and get involved in that process very early on.
Well, we were down in July, August.
Yeah, something like that.
Writing stuff and saying, well, and how do we make it fit? Because the last thing I want to look like is that we're coming on and just doing a variety act.
Which we've done.
Which we've done. And I don't like it. I mean, yeah, just coming on and doing a bit. We like it to fit into the plot and make it fit the plot.
I think that's been truer this year than ever.
Ever, yeah, because we really sat there and said, look, we'll do the anchor gag, we'll cut to the roller skates because it's a bit weird now, political correctness and all that. So we did another routine with the anchor, wrote that in, and we wrote everything in, really, didn't we? A reason for everything.
Yeah. Yeah, so we come up with that, and we try and drop new routines. And of course, it's like anything else with the Grumbleweeds thing. There's the classic stuff we have to do, the stool and all the sort of stuff that they expect.
But they don't always understand everything. I mean, we came up with the idea of the parrot that poops on the stage, and somebody said, oh, I love it. So we had it all made and we did it. But when we got the script back, it said, oh, and Robbie comes on again with the parrot and it poops again. I said, no, not again.
Yeah.
It's pooped once, it doesn't do it twice.
Yeah, but from a scriptwriter's point of view, you do have to sort of guess, because it often, you leave a blank space and you go, well, what happens there? Oh, that's where you do so. Well, why doesn't it say that? Well, yeah. So they write stuff in, and that's fine. Yeah, but and they've got.
But we have got free.
They're really great with this. With
they say, look, you do the comedy, you know what you're talking about. Just do that.
And they let us do that,
which is great.
It's fab, yeah.
And to keep it fresh, how do you do that?
We change it every day. Every single day. Every single day we will come off. You see, you've got to understand how Robin and I work. We have this really clear, open channel all the time. There is no argument or friction ever. He will say to me, listen, don't do that like that. That's not, and I'll say, I think that's not, there's a better way, blah, blah, blah. And this conversation is going on every single day, every single gag, right up to the last
every
show.
Performance.
Every single day. So
every performance, yeah.
We're keeping it fresh by saying, when you're doing that, you forgot that bit that we used to do. Because you do, things develop if you're doing a long run. And we revisit it, we film a lot of it. So the freshness comes in terms of writing new material. If I have a gag file on my phone, I bet I've put 3 new gags in it this week. And they might not be full routines, they might just be a little one-liner, or I might just send him a text and I'll put me, and then the line you, and then his line, and how that works. And he'll go, great, that would fit into that routine. So you're forever...
We're doing it all the time.
If you look at something like this, let's say take the stool routine, which must have been around 20-odd years.
Longer.
And that now has got so many more individual gags in it. Because the stool routine had always existed, and it was Robin's routine for it that became known, and then I sort of came into it. We changed the routine a little bit to fit our style, and then new gags got added. So you're freshening it every time, and if you compare that to the original routine, it's totally and utterly different.
The only thing that's the same is the stool, but it's in the stool that gets the
laugh.
and
things get copied and what have you. Whilst we claim no ownership of the idea of the stool, which probably goes back to the turn of the century, although it's certainly well documented into the 50s as a clown gag. It's that routine, and it's trying to lift that routine. When people lift that routine, lock, stock and barrel, and go, we'll do that. It doesn't work. And that's because, the biggest mistake that they make is the prop itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
They actually think that...
the prop is going to get the laugh. And it isn't the prop that gets the laugh.
It's not the prop.
It's the reaction of the people in it. And you can't have anybody upstage it. For instance, if you do it on stage and you've got a cow on, you do it in the milking scene, it's not going to work. Because the cow is the centre stage. It's holding...
The cow is the star in the milking scene.
It's pulling focus. It's always got the focus, so you still drops down. Well, you're not going to get a laugh, and they don't, but they still do it.
Well, you get a minor laugh, and I suppose for the analysts among you, if you want to have a look at it, have a look at anything with the stool on it, and you'll notice that the first drop on the stool doesn't actually get that big a laugh. That's not the funny bit.
That's the education. That's when you're educated. And if you're only doing it the once, then that's it. If you're solo acting, you're just going bang, oh, still funny, bang. That's the end of it. Done. Whereas that's just setting it up. That is the setup. because the second drop, that's when the laugh comes. And that was 20 years ago, and I said, I wonder if I can get a bigger laugh for the second drop, but same gag. But educating the audience, they know what's going to come now. They're now privy to knowledge that he doesn't know. So going that way. Then we went even one further. We said, can we get it a third laugh? No.
Well, the context from that came
from Hull.
From Hull, we'd done I do a karaoke routine, which I'll bore you about later. And in the end of this thing, the microphone gets stuck in the microphone stand. And I go to, and I'm trying to pull it out. Eventually it comes out, but it comes out a red knot, smacks me straight in the face, knocked me out, and I fell in the pit.
That was the big laugh.
The gag, you see. So that's how we sort of finished
straight
it.
down at the pit. Woof, what an ending.
And that was that. And then, of course, we went on the tour, and not every theatre had a pit. So we've now got no ending.
And no crash mats. And, oh, no, you can't. That's health and safety with no ending.
So we tried all of that, and then one day, it didn't really work, did it? We did it, but it didn't really work, putting a new ending on, because it just watered itself down, and then one day it just dawned on me what it was. And it was the third tag on the stool. And I said to Robin, I know what the ending is for the karaoke. And he said, what? And I said, we'll do the stool again. He said, 3 times with the same gag? Yeah, it'll work. And it does.
That's the one.
It doesn't. It's the biggest laugh of all.
Biggest laugh of all, because they know what's coming. They got, and I say, "Oh, sit down. You'll be all right. You okay? Get him a plaster. You feeling all right?" And of course, he turns around, bang, and that's the biggest laugh of all. 3rd time. So you've educated them. They've seen the idiot get it, and then it's just forgotten about. And an hour later, have a sit down. Oh my God, that's that stool. Boom! Big.
But the point is, it's understanding the nature of routining, and it's not just looking at a prop and going, "There's a funny prop." And if you're going to do anything in panto, try not to do "that's a funny prop" routines, quote unquote.
Yes,
it's what
fancy
you do
dress funny.
You walk on. It is, you know, and you see it at a fancy dress party. Somebody turns up dressed as a fireplace, walks in through the door, and they go,
we're going, "Oh, brilliant!" End of.
That's it.
Now you're stuck like that for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
As a fireplace. We call it fancy dress funny.
Yeah, which is, like you say, we call it fancy dress funny. It's great for getting instant laughs and immediate laughs, but really it's about what you think about, how you routine what you do with what you've got, that makes it kind of memorably funny.
Yeah.
Robin, you said a little while ago there about you've taken out the roller skate routine because of
political correctness.
What's your take on that from recent?
Well, the world's changing. You've got to go with change. I mean, hey, go with change. And if somebody's going to start saying, "Well, I think it's disgraceful," there's a man going across the stage naked on roller skates, it's their opinion. And if they want to get on their high horse about that, and the press, which are great at doing stuff, "Oh, it's disgraceful," and well, just don't do it. That's the easy way out. Just don't do it.
We've plenty of stuff. We don't, we just modified the routine. This still comes across the stage on roller skates in a fashion. What I actually did, we just reapplied a bit of sideways thinking to the routine and said, what if we threw an anchor over the side of the ship
with a rope,
and it dragged you along the floor in the same way as the roller skates? It's the same gag. He just didn't do it naked on roller skates. He did it
just naked on a. It just looks like I'm on a hoverboard, going really, really fast.
So it just looked like it was pulled across by the weight of the anchor, which of course it wasn't. But so it's the same. It's the same thing, and you begin to get the argument of should we give in to the pressure of political correctness, without which there's going to be no comedy at all, I suppose eventually, but they'll work that out, and then in another 10 or 20 years it'll all revert back.
Yeah, and we don't need you don't need press, you don't need press thing.
With plenty of material.
There's plenty of material. We'll take it out. Okay, we'll take it out.
We've a dozen routines easy on the back burner that are just penciled out, ready for going in. We've just got no space for them. So we're not that bothered if somebody says, "Oh, we don't want the stool routine, or we don't want the karaoke routine, or the remote control routine," which is the new copy of choice, isn't it?
We threw a gag in. I'm not going to tell you the gag, but we did do a gag at rehearsals with Michael Harrison when we were doing Cinderella at Birmingham, and the entire room was on the floor laughing. They said, "Oh my God, that is the funniest That is going to go down as the funniest line in the panto. Even Matt Slack said, "Oh my God, that is so funny, that line." So I said, "Great, yeah, fabulous." And Michael Harrison was tears rolling down his face. That is wonderful, that line, wonderful. We got within 2 days of opening, and he said, "Rob, we're going to have to take that line out." I said, "Okay." He said, "Look," he said, "it's just a wonderful line, but," he said, "I've just got a thing." They kicked off with the crankies about them, that, "Oh, you can't have the finger coming out of the fly hole," and "Oh, there was the press and it was all dreadful."
A couple of years ago, if you remember.
A couple of years ago, and we said, "Oh," he said, "I've just got this thing, and we're even worried about doing the roller skates." He said, "But we'll try it. But if anybody comes up and says, 'Oh, we're taking it out,'" I said, "Fine, no problem." He said, "But I'm going to leave that line out if you don't mind." He said, "It is the funniest line ever, but I just don't want you to do it in case somebody..." And that's the way we are. That is the world at the moment.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. We just, like I say, we just put something new in there.
Put something different in. It's all right.
Yeah. It was a slightly naughty line, not of sorts, but
of sorts, but.
And you're not going to tell us, are you?
Sorry to build you up there for nothing, listeners, but we're keeping it very PC just for you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, I'll tell you if you want.
No, don't.
What's been your favourite panto moment then?
Oh, I don't. Where would you go with that? We've got so lucky, certainly in the last couple of years, we've had a couple of Dreamcast things with Beverly and with Matt, and Danny Mack and Suzanne Shaw at Birmingham, which was just had been a dream casting. And it comes back to what I was saying about casting.
For both of us, I mean, where else would you well, you're a good singer, but get to stand on stage and do a duet with Beverly Knight?
Well, she was delighted about that.
I know she was delighted about it, but also, how lucky am I to be able to squirt her, rip her shoes off and put wellies on her? You know what I mean? This is...
Yeah, she was so great.
Dream, and she's just a dream to work with.
She's a great friend.
And then this year with Rachel Wooding, with the greatest comedy timing again.
Yeah,
totally different, but just as much fun. Yeah. And just a dream to do it with.
Yeah. Darren, as you know,
Darren Day was just awesome to work with.
He's a really good man.
It was a dream cast this year.
So there are so many wonderful, wonderful moments that you know that we shouldn't be enjoying. Really, I mean, this is how did this happen?
If you want me to tell you the funniest one ever in my entire career, it was with Graham, and he had a fart machine, which you can all buy. They're only a fiver. You press the button and it goes, and it does 4 different farts, you know, which is funny. Great. So we had this thing. We were doing Doncaster, and we had the dwarfs, and it was Snow White, and the coffin. This is my funniest panto moment, because this is funny. Trust me. The plinth was, if you can imagine, like a pile set up when there was a glass coffin, which was lit inside with this bluey coloured tube, like a fluorescent tube, and she's sitting, Snow White is in the coffin with her arms crossed, asleep, with her head on the pillow. Around the base of it is the 7 dwarfs, and they're all sobbing, and she's died. Obviously this is the storyline. Graham was supposed to walk in with the prince and say, "This, your majesty, is the dwarf's cottage. Oh my goodness, what has happened? Snow White has died." That's what was in the script. That's how it went every night. Not this night. First of all, he came in and said, "And this, your majesty, is the sunbed room," which was funny to start with, because she's lying there on this thing with this blue light on her, the sunbed. So that was funny. But I said to him, "Why don't you put the fart machine underneath the pillow of where the prince is going to go down and kiss her?" What we'd forgotten was everybody's got a head mic. We've got a mic on the head, so it's the audience hear it, because I thought nobody hear it, but it'll just make us laugh. But no, of course, the head mic's picked up. So the prince, he'd done the line, he comes on, "This is the sunbed room." Everybody's now got the giggles, but he goes down and said, "Oh, she needs a kiss from me, that'll bring her back." He goes down to kiss her, and he gets about 6 inches away, and Graham presses the button. Goes through the entire PA system, because the mics are picking it up. And Cinderella is now, Snow White is now shaking in this coffin. The prince is doubled up, and he did it again. The dwarfs are all laughing. The guy that pressed the button, Graham, is on the floor. His legs have turned to jelly with laughing. And I'm at the side of the stage just saying, this is just chaos. And the entire audience is laughing. This was the saddest place in the world. She's died, and everybody's in hysterics. The director went mental. But it was the funniest thing I have ever seen.
The other one, of course, is Norman Collier in Dick Whittington.
Yeah, that was really, really funny. That was really funny. We were working, I can't remember her name. She'll kill me for not remembering her name. She was with, it will come to me after we finish talking. Very beautiful girl. Big, big hair, all backcombed and out, you know, rock star. She was a rock singer. Beautiful girl. And her name will come to me. She was playing Alice Fitzwarren. She didn't look like Alice Fitzwarren. She looked like a rock star. And Morris and I and Graham, captain and crew, it was Dick Whittington, and Norman Collier would say to, oh, this is my daughter, and introduce him to Dick Whittington. And that's when they would fall in love. And there'd be ting, the magic moment, they've just fallen in love, Dick Whittington and Alice Fitzwarren. So Shelley Preston is her name. That's what I was looking for. If you can hear, if you're listening, Shelley, Shelley Preston, and she backstage before the show, and she said, "Have you got a hairdryer?" I said, "Mine's just blown up." I said, "Nope." Oh, she said, "Well, I can't do anything with my hair. I can't backcomb it." So, and she's just got like dead straight hair, no backcombing. I said, "Go on like that. You look more like Alice Fitzwarren with the parting and just dead straight blonde hair than you do with the I just dropped my glasses, sorry." And so she said, "Do you think?" I said, "Absolutely, do it. Definitely, you look better. Don't do all the backcombing." And right, so on she goes. Of course, Norman Collier hasn't seen her backstage, and he didn't know what she looks like because he's always seen her with this rock gear. So she walks on stage, and just she's about when Norman says, "And this is my daughter, Alice," and of course she walks on, and Norman just looked at her and says, "How do you do?" She said, "How do you do?" All right. Yeah. And so then Dick Whittington comes on, and all right, yeah. So nothing's happening. So I said, are you not going to introduce your daughter to Dick?" "Is that my daughter?" "Oh, I didn't recognise the hair." We were in stitches. He didn't even know who he was. If you had to be there, it was one of those absolutely amazing moments. Wonderful, and of course,
I was thinking the banishment scene.
the what?
The banishment scene.
Oh, that was the banishment scene. Yeah. Well, John Conway directed that show, and "Get out of my shop! You've stolen my money." And Dick would then go across to me and say, "Robin, you're my pal. My special light would go out." I'd turn round and he'd go to Morris, "You're my mate," and the light would go out. And Alice, their light would go out, and all the lights would just go out one at a time in a circle, and he'd just be left with the cat, and he'd say, "You're my friend, Tommy." Of course, the cat would stay with him, and it was a very, very sad moment. Everybody's left his life, and he's just stuck with his cat. Whereas Norman Collier didn't think that way. So he did this, "Tommy, you're my friend," and Norman, in darkness, went, "Bah, bah, bah." Of course, we're all in hysterics now. You can't do that, it's a sad plot. Oh, right, no barring, no. "Tommy, you're my pal." No, you can't do a chicken, it's a sad moment. Oh, right. Next night, dog, cow, moo, any animal. So they had to turn his mic off to stop doing it. But we knew this point, everybody's just shaking and laughing, even the cat's laughing, and it's a sad moment. Norman was wonderful, very, very, very funny man, but he didn't realise how funny he was. It just silly. That's where it is. It's silly is funny, isn't it? Silly is funny.
Yes.
But at the right place, unfortunately, not in the sad scenes.
And that's why I called you boys when I introduced you, because
yeah, we are, we're boys.
Do you think it keeps you young?
Yeah, we're boys.
Yeah, I think so. I think you you certainly, in terms of fitness, when Rob has to do the roller skating and that sort of stuff, we certainly but panto or otherwise, we still do the roller skating thing on the tour, and it's it's about being sort of young at heart, isn't it? Because a lot of like I say, what we do is old school stuff. So it's being the child in the adult world. So I think you do need that sort of perception of it. But I don't think it matters. I don't think age really comes into it. Whether what your outlook on life is. Where I suppose historically speaking, there's lots of sort of comics that have played totally different roles on stage than they played in their own lives. Think about people like Frank Randall and who were troubled souls. So yeah, I don't think it matters too much. I think so long as you're watching what the kids are watching, and often we might need a funny line and or an everyday line, and if you don't know what the everyday what kids are talking about or what's fashionable, then you won't know what they find funny.
And why do you think it is that there aren't that many women in comedy?
It's very difficult for women in comedy, I think, and I think it's sort of it's very unevenly stacked, against women in comedy. And it's not that women can't be funny, but I don't. Again, it's one of those things. The
village idiot is never a woman.
Yeah, but that's not because there are sort of vast hordes of aggressive comics saying that women can't be comics. I think it's in the same way that plumbers are disproportionately men. It doesn't really matter. I don't think sex really comes into it. There is always the opportunity there for certainly today for women to be funny, or for men to be nurses or whatever. It's just that some things are just numbers, and that's it. There are some wonderful examples of very, very funny women. Look at something like Victoria Wood, who won't be surpassed in our lifetime. She was a kind of two Ronnies thing all on her own. She was just brilliant. So I don't think it's anything other than a number. I really don't. I think it's just a statistic that it's probably men just got bigger mouths and like to be the centre of attention more.Maybe that's it. Who knows? But I don't think it's anything other than that. I think women can be equally funny, and there are many great examples of that. Only a couple of weeks ago I was looking at Hattie Jakes. I just seen how funny and how technically funny she was.
Great timing.
Yeah. Again, it's just that lovely scene where she comes down the stairs on Carry On Camping. There'd been a big run of carry-ons over Christmas, and just seeing how brilliantly she understood the craft. So it really is nothing to do with what sex you are. It's to do with how much you understand the thing, and I suppose the desire to actually be a comic.
No, Milton. No, stop messing about.
You can't stop, can you? It comes to that time in the podcast where we ask you your dream.
Who could live in a house like this? Let's look for the clothes.
So, Dream Panto, we spoke briefly beforehand, and you said the last one you've been in.
Yeah, well, we've been so lucky with Dream Casting. Casting is everything. If you get the right people, or indeed the wrong people. But when you get the right people together, and I mean, if you look at the last couple we've done for Kudos, where we did, Flawless, Darren Day, Rachel Wooding, and all the rest of the support.
But even the smaller parts, Millie and
well, that's right. The support is
they were just perfect people.
Yeah, with great Peter Pan and a great Wendy. And you look at it and you go, who would you change? And the answer is nobody. Who was the weak link? There wasn't one.
Can we have that cast again next year? I mean, I've already said it to Jonathan. Can we have that cast exactly the same like that? Just so.
And then the year before in Birmingham, which we've already spoken about, Matt, who's a great friend of ours and a brilliant comedian. Beverly, a brilliant singer, every ounce a star.
Danny was wonderful. Suzanne was a brilliant. Just the whole show was
everybody
amazing.
And everything.
Yeah. Well, we've been very lucky.
Uglies, David Dale and Kerry Dupree. It's just.
Well, I'm going to turn this round now. I'm going to still give you your Dream Panto, but your cast are people who have since passed on.
Ooh, that would be good. I liked Terry Scott as a dame.
So you've got to choose your panto first of all.
Okay.
Each of you.
So, I'm going to go Dick Whittington, because I think there's more scope for comedy.
there is more scope for comedy, but to sit down and watch a panto like Cinderella, but there is more scope for comedy in Dick Whittington or Robinson Crusoe.
Yeah,
that's never been.
Or
done.
Little Red Riding Hood, where there's very little plot, and you get a lot more. But okay, so I would go Dick Whittington. I like Terry Scott, and I like Terry Scott because Terry Scott comes from an age when people sounded funny.
Ha ha! My brother! Ha ha! My brother! Yeah, it was a great voice. Yeah.
He sounded funny, you know, and people like Albert Mogley, Frank Randall, who they sounded like funny men. They had funny voices. Norman Evans. Now, as soon as you say
Norman Evans,
right?
Wow.
Now, as soon as you say Norman Evans, you get that kind of over the garden wall. And think about that one clip that you ever saw on 50 Great Moments of Variety on Channel 4 or whatever. I urge you, tap into YouTube, Norman Evans, and have a look at Norman Evans. There's the one, if you've seen it, you'll know the one where he gets the hair from the wig stuck in his glasses, and he's trying to work around that. The thing with Norman Evans was, he was funny without material.
He didn't say anything.
There were no
I would
gags.
just say to Mrs. Higginbottom, look, get out of my lad, you little... hello, Mrs. Higginbottom. I would just say to you, lad, how's your Azzy? They're having it... has she? Oh, dear. You've no idea what he's talking about. Yeah. It doesn't go anywhere, and he talks rubbish, and it's hysterically funny. Yeah.
So that's where I would go over Jack Tripp, of course, as dames. Where would you go, principal boys and principal girls? Because this has changed over the years.
Well, I never used to really get on with the principal boy, all the legs, 10 more miles to London and still no sign of Dick and slapping thighs and all that. It just never really made it for me. I'd rather have them the proper...
Right, so the fella, all right, well, it makes more sense. But I don't know who that would be. It could be anybody, and it depends when you what sort of era you're talking. So I don't know on Principal Boys. Villains, you need a good talker. Valentine Dale
was amazing. Yeah, great voice.
One of the first pantos I saw as a kid, Valentine Dale, and it was Mike Raymond that produced it. He ran a company called Jolie Productions. And it was Ronnie Hilton, I think, who played. Ronnie Hilton played the Emperor of China. Nicholas Smith, if you remember him from Are You Being Served?
Are You Being Served? Yeah. Big ears.
He was. Or did he play? I can't remember. He played the Emperor or whatever he played. But yeah, he played Dame. He played Dame, of course he did. Yeah. And Aston played Aladdin on that thing. It's funny how shows past influence you in it, but
yeah, because you remember it when you're young.
Yeah, so probably Valentine Dale. As the villain, who would you put in as the comics from the sort of old school?
Oh, my dad.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of YouTube, have a look at this on YouTube, listeners. If you type in Peter Colville,
Colville,
right? Has he got an E on his?
He's got an E on it. I haven't.
Right?
My mother fell out with him and took the E off, so that was the end of it.
No E for you.
No E for me.
I'm so angry with you.
I've no E's.
I'm going to deduct an E from your surname. That's how angry she was at the time. Anyway.
Yeah, Peter Colville.
For Peter Colville with an E on the end. Rooster Gag, have a look at that. And it's a wonderful telling of the Rooster Gag for those that know it. But it's probably the definitive telling of it. And it's interesting just how much he's like you.
Yeah, we're very similar. My daughter says, "Oh, it's eerie, Dad, watching your dad."
Yeah.
Because he was a double act. His partner died first. Vic Gordon and Colville, they were called. They used to do Crackjack.
How did you come up with that?
I don't know. It's a good idea, isn't it? Maybe we should call ourselves Brandon and Colville. But yeah, they were amazing. They did panto, all very, very funny stuff. He played the feed to my dad, and Vic was a very, very funny man, gormless looking, perfect comics. They would be the perfect in this idyllic panto we're going to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We've got everybody.
Is that?
You just need somebody fabulous.
Got to secure the money.
To get paid.
What about your Cinderella then?
Oh, it's the same as his. We work together.
Oh, is it? Is it a collaboration?
It's been a joint effort. Everything we do is a joint effort.
I'll let you have that one. Well, boys, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for taking part.
It's
Yes,
our
and
pleasure.
good luck with the edit on that.
Yeah, good luck with the edit.
And now they're going to tell me what the naughty line was.